Good morning. This is John from the Springs Mennonite Church. It's good to be with you today. It really is. Start of another week to expect great things from God and great things to understand about God. And this week, I like to do things a little bit differently in that all week long, I'm going to be sharing some words from the prophet, either Habbakuk or Habbakuk. I've never been sure exactly which way it's pronounced, so I'll stay with Habakkuk because that's what I use most of the time. And this little prophet, about all we know historically, is that he was a contemporary of Jeremiah. And the crazy thing about this prophet, who differs from every other one, is that he never talks about Israel. Rather, his whole prophecy, his whole writings, is about this conversation between him and God. And he starts out by asking a question. Let me read that for you. Chapter 1, beginning with verse 2. How long, Lord, must I cry for help? But you do not listen, or cry to you violence, but you do not save. Why do you make me look at injustice? Why do you tolerate wrongdoing, destruction, and violence that are before me? Well, you know, I'm not sure all of us haven't asked some of those questions, or the general question, and that is, God, look what's happening. Why aren't you doing something? Where'd you go? Hey, I'm still here. What about you? Life is full of problems, difficulties, questions, but it's hard to find good answers. Oh, the world would tell you that the answer is happiness, money, things, that kind of stuff. I've heard so many people say that I deserve to have my happiness. Well, that's true as long as your happiness doesn't injure somebody else in the process. I mean, you don't have a right to do something that makes you happy that injures someone else. That's selfishness. That's not happiness. And so the prophet Habakkuk says, "Hey, God, let me read it again. How long must I cry for help and you don't listen?" Now, it's presumptuous, really, that we could talk to God this way, but the prophet tells us that's what he did. And there's no evidence that God got angry at him for talking that way. I think it's perfectly okay when things are falling apart, when things are difficult, to just say, "Hey, God, what are you doing? Give me some help here, will you?" Now, it's one thing to ask the question. There are two parts to this. The second part is you got to wait for the answer. And then the third part is you got to hear the answer. See, most of us, when we have a problem, we have the solution in mind. We just want God to work out our solution. We already have it figured out. God, if you just do this and this and this, then everything's wonderful. And we kind of sometimes talk to God in terms that way. Hey, God, would you do such and such? Now, the only real problem with that is that we don't know the future. We don't know the interconnections between what we're asking and what's happening outside of us, around us, with others. You know, it's pretty easy to have a fairly selfish prayer here, but it's not selfishness that drives a lot of the time. It's just desperation. Life is hard. As someone said, life is hard and then you die. Well, that's not very uplifting. And my whole goal in these things is to provide encouraging words. So the encouraging words are the answer that God gives to Habakkuk in this question. Verse 5. Look at the nations and watch, and be utterly amazed. For I'm going to do something in your midst that you would not believe, even if I told you. Now, this is an important verse for life. It is for me. It's one of my favorite verses. Folks around here have heard me talk about it every once in a while. And what God answers Habakkuk with is, hey, I'm already on it. Take it easy, dude. I'm already working on the problem. Now, we can't see the answer because the answers aren't necessarily instantaneous. But God says here, I'm going to do something. If I told you right now, this is what I'm going to do, you still wouldn't believe me. You just have to be patient and watch me work. Whatever life's trouble has given you, the solution is the same to you as it was to Habakkuk. Look around. See what you see. And then remember that God is at work. When you think that he's passed you by, when you think that, oh my gosh, now what's going on? It's okay. We're human. We can think that. But the answer to that is right here. Look. God says, look. Look. We got to look. We got to see beyond ourselves. We got to see beyond our situation. We got to see beyond our troubles and see that God has a solution. But we don't know what it is. But we don't have to know. The only one who really has to know is the one who has the power to make it happen. Who's that? Not me. Not you. But God. You see, he never leaves us. Habakkuk is saying, hey man, what are you doing? Come on, give me a break here. As if God wasn't interested. But he was all along. And he says, I'm going to do something in your midst that even if I told you, you wouldn't believe it. Yeah. So the three parts here are, go ahead and ask a question. Secondly, be patient. And thirdly, look to see what God's going to do. Well, thanks for listening. I'll be back in Habakkuk tomorrow. We'll try another spot and see what we find out. Thanks so much for listening. If you have a prayer concern or a need, let us know. We'll do everything we can as fast as we can to help meet your need. So until tomorrow, God bless you. I'll talk to you again.